Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Eddie Hertzman. He is the founder of SourcingJournal. Eddie, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Jill, thanks for having me. Happy holidays.
All right, let's talk all things retail on Black Friday. How do you expect one of the biggest days for retailers to shape up?
So at a macro level, sales are going to be very robust this year. I think that's without question. But I think that we really have to break it into two categories. I think top line sales will be very strong. I'm very curious that when they report fourth quarter and in Q1, what impact to margin do these retailers have when they take into account promotions, supply chain headwinds, higher employment costs? I think this is going to be the question on everyone's mind.
How important is Black Friday and Cyber Monday versus years past?
I think the barometer of success is becoming less and less important. I think there's still a shopper that's looking for a deal, and we're going to see more foot traffic in brick and mortar this year than in years past. But the lines between Cyber Monday and Black Friday have been completely blurred, with more and more people doing Black Friday shopping today. And also, retailers have encouraged people to start shopping as early as early October, with people like Target price matching first, second week of October. So we really have to look at the sales calendar as months and not days anymore.
Right, and that's a great point that you make. I mean, I've been getting text messages and emails and so forth. Not only are they tailored with their messaging, which is really interesting, but they've just, I mean, the price is 50, 60, 70% off. You typically don't see these till the end of the season. Do you think these trends are going to continue for the holiday season?
I do. I think what you're going to see, unfortunately, though, is there's going to be a lot of stock outs, and you're going to see shoppers going into the stores. They're not going to see the inventory they want. And two things are going to happen. I really think it's going to be the season of the gift card. And that's going to be a very interesting metric as well, because some retailers don't book that as revenue until the actual gift card is utilized. So when will those sales materialize? Also, people are going to be buying things for family members and friends, which they ultimately may return. So what does that look like in January, February, when that merchandise hits the shelves again and it gets marked down? I think that the first 3 quarters of this year, I don't want to use the term fool's gold, but I think a lot of retailers saw really strong sales and profitability. For the first time in a long time, consumers were flush with cash. There was a lot of demand, and there was just not a lot of inventory. So they were seeing much higher sell-throughs and margin than they have in the past. I unfortunately don't think this trend is going to continue for the foreseeable future, especially with the amount of inventory people are buying right now leading into 2022.
Right. And let's talk about the supply chain and how that's impacting holiday. I can tell you anecdotally, if it is not in the warehouse and it needs to be shipped elsewhere, it's not coming in, or it's going to be delayed. I mean, I've ordered stuff in September that is just starting to show up because it wasn't in-house.
I think we have to look at the supply chain issues in a few different buckets. A lot of the headlines right now have been around the ports. And I will say, we are starting to see a little bit of relief. The container dwell fee that was supposed to go into effect, they postponed that. Biden's 24 hours. It's not really 24 hours. We're seeing like 19 hours. I think in the past few weeks, we saw about a 20 to 25% reduction in the container load. However, the American Trucking Association last month said there's 80,000 shortage of truckers. I think Gene, the executive director, from the port of LA, was saying that there's 400,000 warehouse shortages right now. So what's happening is, even if you get the goods through the ports, we don't have the people to drive it and then to fulfill it at the warehouse level. So these supply chain issues are going to continue for the foreseeable future, because the metric that everyone is forgetting is that we as consumers are procuring our things differently now. We're not going to the store. So if we continue to see an uptick in online purchases, we just don't have the back-end logistics to support that type of delivery.
Are there any categories that stand out as winners? And I've been really curious to ask you this particular question. You and I have spoken about the discounters before, like TJ Maxx and Ross Stores. And I believe we spoke about that one winter we had 6 or 7 years ago. It was like 60 degrees. And it wasn't good for the retailers that had the puffy jackets, but it was great for the discounters, great for the consumer at the end of the day. Do you think that we're going to see all this inventory that's going to be old once it finally arrives hit the discounters, and it's good for them?
Oh, absolutely. I think that the discounters right now, their biggest pain point isn't sales. It's the inflationary, they're so price sensitive. how much can they move those price points up? TJ has a little bit more bandwidth than, let's say, a Ross or TJ, because the consumer is really, really price sensitive there. They're finding it nearly impossible to hold price. I think we're going to see price increases definitely in the first or second quarter of next year. But you're absolutely correct. There's a lot of merchandise that's going to hit, whether it's seasonal merchandise or just too much merchandise that they will be able to be the benefactors of. But I think in the short term, in terms of categories, this is a question that a lot of people have been talking about. You know, home is going to continue to do very well this holiday season. Footwear is very strong. Anything athletic wear, strong. Denim is strong. So I think apparel is going to be at the top of the list, which is something that you don't normally see. Electronics is always there, home, apparel. But I do think, like I said, these retailers, even though sales will be strong, they have problems on the horizon. And a lot of that's going to be around the inventory that they're buying right now.
You know what else I wanted to ask you? What about in terms of manufacturing? I saw SourcingJournal put out a really interesting piece, how they're starting to shift from countries in Asia, and I believe Peru is the new hotspot that they're going to for manufacturing. I thought that was really interesting how they're making that pivot.
Well, I think, geopolitical issues are on the rise, and people are really concerned about how much they could put in one country. This is not a new topic, Jill. We've been talking about this for years. So a lot of people were looking to move out of China well before the tariffs, well before, the Uyghur Forced Protection Act. So, Vietnam was the hot spot, and obviously Vietnam was under a lot of pressure this year, a lot of factories shut down. So people are really looking for places to go. I think the reason Peru and Central America is becoming a topic of conversation is because of the nearshoring. It's duty-free, but the ability to get goods into this country very, very quickly, you could air them in days. We can't have a consumer that wants a product in 24 hours and a supply chain that takes 6 months to react. So I don't think really anyone has a solid answer. I don't think we're not going to be manufacturing in Mars anytime soon, but people are really re-looking where they're going to manufacture. And there's going to be pressure for some of the South Asian countries to change their line setups. I think the days of 1 million widgets at $1 CM are going away. You have to be able to do a lot of SKUs, smaller MOQs, and just keep, supplying your clients those goods every couple of weeks.
All right, Eddie, we appreciate the insight as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thanks, Jill.